make for the smoothest of ride. We stopped for dinner at a restaurant somewhere in Alabama, and we came in, and of course we had to wait to be seated, table for four, and we got our seats, and you can always tell when you're going to have kind of a bad service when you got to remember this was in the days when they put water on the table, like water was already on the table, and so was the silverware before you even sat down. Nothing like that here. And we sat down, of course, and the lady says, you know, your server will be with you shortly. And so we waited and waited and waited and waited, and I'm not really clear why we didn't just get up and leave after a few minutes. Finally, about 10 minutes later, the waitress showed up very apologetic. She says, are y'all ready to order? And we were like, well, we would be, but we don't have any menus. I remember I ordered the spaghetti with meat sauce, and I don't remember what anybody else ordered, but I had the spaghetti and meat sauce. And this restaurant had a salad bar that looked like it had just survived a parade of elephants going through it. And so we went back to our seats because we weren't going to have the salad bar. We waited 45 minutes. The server came back and says, your food should be out any minute. We're sorry for your wait. And by this time, my dad was getting hangry, I think is the word, right? When you're mad because you're hungry, so you're hangry. And she says, you know, I'm sorry it's taking so long. We're a little short-handed tonight. 45 minutes later, she says, I think your food will be out in a minute. 10 minutes later, we're looking for the waitress. And it was at that moment when my dad had reached his breaking point. I mean, no sooner had he gotten up to give a manager the piece of our mind that our food finally arrived. And gosh, only about half of it was right, but you know, it didn't matter. My spaghetti looked old and just not very good, but I was so hungry I didn't care. I devoured it without complaint. By that time it was about 8 o'clock, and come to find out that the kitchen had gotten so hectic that half the restaurant staff had walked out right in the middle of their shifts. And our waitress, she just looked like she had been through the ringer. She looked absolutely exasperated. And I'm sure she didn't receive much of a tip that night from any table. I can't even remember what or even if we paid for that terrible meal. You know, we don't say waiter or waitress anymore because that's not the appropriate nomenclature anymore. The more appropriate title is server. And it's funny how many of us were so apt to serve others, but when it comes to being served, we have a hard time with that. You know, keeping in mind that they're called servers, we tend to mistreat these folks when they have failed to give us the service that it is that we seek. Why is that? Why can't we just be open and let others serve us? Is it pride? Do we not feel worthy? Does being served make us feel any less than we are? Because it shouldn't. Jesus said, the Son of Man, and I'm going to read this from Matthew chapter 28, verse 20, which says that the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. You know, the Bible tells us so many stories of where human beings are called by God to do amazing things, all for His glory. But it's really hard to find a place in the Scriptures of a more awkward time of what Jesus did for His disciples right before the Last Supper. He did it without complaint, He did it without reward, and He did it without hesitation, and He did it out of love. In John chapter 13, verse 2 through 8, which can tell this a lot better than I can, it goes like this. Jesus poured water into a basin and began to wash His disciples' feet, drying them with the towel that was wrapped around Him. He came to Simon Peter, who said to Him, Lord, are you going to wash my feet? Jesus replied, you do not realize now what I am doing, but later you will understand. No, said Peter, you shall never wash my feet. Jesus answered, unless I wash you, you have no part with me. Hard to imagine that Jesus, the Savior of the world, washing the feet of anyone. I'd rather think of Jesus the way I want to think him: preaching, teaching, helping the poor, healing the sick, teaching the children. That's the Jesus that suits me. But what about the Jesus that serves others? And what about the Jesus that serves us? Jesus came to serve. He comes into our life to serve us. There's no catch. There's just loving, humble, kind service by the Creator of the cosmos to and for us. And Jesus does not wait to see if you'll serve him. He comes and serves you, even though that favor is unmerited and unearned. Well, human beings, and I'm definitely can be put into the category of being very, very proud, being prideful. When we serve others, we need to realize that when we serve others, we are actually serving Christ. Not because we're asked to, but because we should want to. And it's done without reward or recognition of any kind. And when it comes to being served ourselves, we tense up and think of all the reasons why, what we can do to reject that service. And that's not acceptable on our part. The waitress that night, the server that night, had every reason to join the rest of that staff by walking out of that restaurant. But my guess is she needed the job, and she was willing to accept the stuff that angry customers were giving her. The abusive kitchen staff. And for those of y'all that have worked in restaurants know it can get pretty intense, especially on a very busy night. I bet that it's really difficult to serve people constantly when they neither appreciate or care about you, when they give you a hard time, when they constantly admonish you, when they humiliate you, when they don't even acknowledge your existence. Well, I think Jesus knows a whole lot about that. So our challenge here is to accept the fact that by allowing ourselves to be served by others is just as important as serving others. And that is because it does require, and I even think that allowing ourselves to be served requires even more discipline than serving others. It's difficult to accept Jesus Christ as a servant sometimes instead of the one whom God commands us to serve. There's a great song. It's a great song. It's in I don't know if it's in our hymn book or if it's in our Faith We Sing, but it is called the Servant Song. And I want to read the lines of that to you. And let me pull it up here. I should have it. Many of y'all will know this. I'm not going to sing, so be grateful for that. But many of y'all have heard the lyrics, and I want to look at the last one here. Brother, let me be your servant. Let me be as Christ to you. Pray that I may have the grace to let you be my servant too. We need to continue to pray for the grace to let others serve us as our service to others. Let me pray for us. Gracious God, we give you thanks for your word. We give you thanks for the grace that you give us every single day. And God, we also give you thanks for the opportunities that you give to serve others. But God, we pray that we don't miss the opportunities of being served by others, because there's just as much a blessing in that as well. God, be with us as we go throughout the rest of this week and next week. We lift up the people of our church that are tuning in live or that are watching this later and their families. God, keep us healthy and safe throughout this season and beyond. It's in your Son's name we pray. Amen. All right, well, we do have some special guests, but we're about to go now to an interview that took place actually yesterday. Two special guests. First one is going to be a face that you all will recognize, Joel Garrett, our pastor to students and families. And our special guest is Jeff Wilson, who is the assistant director at Camp Lake Stevens, who's going to talk to us about camp. So let's take you there now. All right. Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to our interview portion of Maples Connect. It's good to see everybody. Today we have two special guests with us. The first one you already know. It is my good buddy Joel Garrett. And on the other side of the screen, we have Jeff Wilson of Camp Lake Stevens. Jeff, how are you today?
I'm doing good. How are y'all?
Oh, we're doing great. We appreciate you coming on Maples Connect tonight. And so tell us who you are and what you do.
So I am the assistant director at Camp Lake Stevens. I've been here since last October, but I have a longer history here at Camp Lake Stevens. I was started out as a counselor with Joel, of all people, in 2012, I believe, and rose through the ranks, and I spent a few years in Alabama at another camp as the program director, and now I'm back.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, well, tell us a little bit about, we know that camp was shut down for the summer due to the pandemic. Are we seeing some signs of life?
Sure. Yeah. So obviously it was a super hard decision for us, but the idea was that we needed to be able to ensure that if people came onto our property, that we were able to mitigate as much risk as possible. And with how fast everything was moving, and how daily things were changing, we didn't feel that we were ready for that to just run right into summer. And so as hard as that was, I think it was the right decision for us. But we were able to have a couple of small groups come in, including y'all's youth group came down for a volunteer day, which was great help for us. And moving forward, we're starting to dip our toes into other small groups. We've had one overnight group so far. And we're continuing to kind of progress towards that. And including this weekend, we have an LIT retreat, which is kind of taking place of a very popular program we have during the summer, where we'll have 20 kids here doing a lot of good work, and a lot of good soul searching and discernment and foundation stuff. So we're definitely ramping things back up now, now that we've kind of like figured out our plan. Yeah.
So, obviously we're still in the middle of the pandemic. Because like I said, we've got some fall retreats coming up, and I'll have you talk about that in a second. The safety protocols at Camp Lake Stevens, like what are they, just for the parents that are watching? Like what are some things y'all do?
So we could spend all day going through everything, but I can give you the big highs. So the biggest piece is, so we'll talk about in respects to our LIT retreat that's coming up next. So what's going to happen is, so this week, the parents of those kids got a questionnaire that says things like, hey, have you been exposed to COVID in the past 14 days knowingly? Has your school system quarantined you? Like that's happened a couple times there. Or like, I think Lafayette County right now, there's part of their grade, the whole school system said this whole grade is quarantined.
Right.
So questions like that, any kind of like exposure stuff, kind of as a pre-screening. And so once, if all of that stuff is clear and good, then we move to the day of. So registration for this event. So what we'll do is the kids will get out. We already have their paperwork, and we'll have their payment or anything. If we need to do anything like that, we'll do that. But we'll temperature check them. And so once they get out of the car, we're looking for a temperature below 100.00. And if they're below that, they're good. They can come into camp. And if they're above that, we'll be sending them home. And so that's where the tricky part is of like, you know, if a group of 5 people come together, and if one of them has that higher temp, then everybody has to go home within that group.
Yeah.
So from there, we've entered into camp. And so basically we've got a lot of the things that are already happening for kids and for our community. Anytime we're inside and really close to each other, we're going to have masks on. Our dining hall is spread out now to where the tables are really far apart from each other, and we're not fitting as many people as we used to fit in those spaces.
Sure.
Any spaces that we use a ton. So for this upcoming retreat, we're going to be in the chapel a good bit. We will be going through every few hours and disinfecting touch points. So like door handles or, you know, areas in the bathroom, things like that, things that a lot of people are coming in a lot of contact with. We'll be disinfecting those spaces. And then besides that, we'll just be trying to limit our inside time, just trying to keep everybody outside. It's just a lot less risky
Sure.
to be outside than it is to be inside a lot. So that's kind of how that'll roll.
Okay.
And then from there, once the retreat is completed, we're going to send out a questionnaire about a week after camp and ask, hey, does anybody have any symptoms?
Gotcha.
So that allows us to understand if there's, you know, we need to do any kind of contact with the rest of the group or anything like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Joel, did you have a question or? Okay, sorry. There you go. I'll unmute you.
Okay, thanks,
there
man.
you go.
No, I was gonna say, yeah, Jeff, just really appreciate all the thought and the work you guys have put into making a good space during this time, especially for that LIT retreat. I mean, I know we have at least one, maybe a couple of youth from Maples going on that retreat this weekend. The LIT program has been so important in their lives. So just yeah, I mean, just really appreciative of all the intentionality and the work that you guys put into mitigating those risks so that, you know, this can even happen right now. Just very, very grateful for that. Yeah.
And so talk about the fall retreats. And I guess, you know, I mean, Joel, Jeff, y'all know the leaves are going to be changing colors here soon.
Right.
And falling from the trees, like the cool, brisk air. I'm thinking bonfires. I'm thinking the best time to be at camp. So what do you guys have coming up? And you may not be able to talk about all of it because I know it's probably exciting, but just some things that are coming up that might interest some of our viewers.
Right. Yeah. So we have, at this point in time, we have planned a relatively normal retreat schedule for the fall. And so what I mean by that is actually having the events. There will definitely be different. Our first, besides the LIT retreat this next weekend, our first retreat that we have scheduled will be our children's retreat, Children's Spiritual Life Retreat. That's a classic. That is October 17th and 18th. So that's a one-night event. That there will definitely be some differences there, and it definitely won't be as large as it used to be. Most of our retreats will be a good deal smaller. But it'll be the same general practices with our groups, and it'll be a little bit easier, honestly, because usually kids come with their church, and so what we'll be able to do is say, all right, all of Maple's kids are going to be in this building, and so they have this building, and they're not going to be mixed with other groups. Or Starkville First will have this building. And so there'll definitely be some unique challenges that we'll have to put in and to think about with these groups, but we're still planning on having a great speaker. We are planning on doing some more outside stuff and just, you know, continuing that great tradition in a little bit of a new way. After that, we have a junior high spiritual life retreat. We have not done this in a while. So we're trying to bring that back. And that will be November 13th, 14th, and 15th. Same process, except an extra night here. And again, we'll have those classic activities. We'll have the different games, different team building, a different speaker, trying to innovate as best we can, make sure we're still giving a meaningful program, and allowing kids to grow and develop in a unique way, with thinking of the context of how the coronavirus affects that. That very next weekend, November 20th through the 22nd, is our senior high retreat. And that actually might be the one that hasn't been around for a few years. I think the junior high we've been doing, but the senior high retreat we've stopped doing. But we're bringing that back. Same usual process, having our groups. So this would be like for 9th through 12th or so kids. And this is more, so whereas the LIT retreat is more individual kids, this is definitely going back to like church models. So your youth group would come together, and we would have a different program, different speakers for this, for your group, and hope that you guys can have some time to form some great foundations with one another and have some good shared experiences. And then after that, we have kind of a big break until overflow.
Jeff, are we able to do fall fling this year for the adults?
Yeah, that's a great question. So do you mean like Christmas at camp, or?
Yeah, like for the adults watching, maybe some things that they offer that y'all offer.
Sure. Yeah. At this point in time, we're still planning on attempting Christmas at camp. We don't have that set on an exact calendar yet.
Yep.
But at this point in time, that will be sometime in December, early December. That's always a great one for us. It helps. It's definitely a huge community outreach time. We've been having more and more people tell us that it's not that they're finding out about this through like advertising or social media. They're finding out about it because it's their tradition. They always come and do those things. So I would imagine we're really definitely going to try to make sure that happens this year.
Okay,
and then cool. Overflow, the big bang.
Overflow, yes.
January 16th, 17th, and 18th. That'd be Martin Luther King weekend. I think we've been doing it a few years on that weekend. And hopefully we will be able to, we'll definitely have progressed in some manner with the pandemic by that time.
Yeah.
But we're definitely hoping for a lot of cool new stuff to do there. But yeah.
So how have y'all done in, I guess, I hate to say the word surviving, I can't think of a better one, during this pandemic? Like I guess if I could ask Camp Lake Stevens a question about how is it with your soul? How's it gone?
Sure. I would say obviously we were really nervous when everything started going on, and we realized that we had to make the call to not have summer, and that was going to be for the best interests of everyone. What we were, amazed to see, and it was more of it wasn't that we didn't know it was here, but it was a reaffirmment of how strong the CLS community is that we've had an amazing amount of financial support through donors, people who have never given before, people who have given a bunch and gave even more. There were, you don't normally see people, 20 to 25-year-olds being major donors, and we had a lot of former staff really step up, and that was amazing to see how impactful, or it was a reaffirmation to see how impactful the work was here that was done on them, and that they care about this place that much. Our budget is definitely been knocked in half. And we're definitely not out of the woods yet, but I would say that we're cautiously optimistic. I wouldn't, at this point in time, I'm not even beginning to think that like CLS is going away or anything like that. We're definitely not there. But we're definitely having to innovate and to think of new ways. How can we reach people in different ways? Maybe small groups. or, offering family vacation times and things like that. So yeah.
Okay.
And I would say, even, the flip side of that. So there's the financial piece of that and the real Camp Lake Stevens kind of soul part. And I would say, one of the things that was really interesting to me that I kind of, it took me a little while to allow myself to think about it this way, but camp as a whole, if you think of the property and the facilities, yes, it was terrible that we didn't have people here this summer, but this summer has almost been kind of a Sabbath for the property. And there's been a lot of really cool renewal that's been going on. Not only natural renewal, but also we've had the opportunity to fix some things that we've always wanted to fix, but there was just never ever time for.
Right.
So there's been a lot of really positive growth that's come out of this, positive renewal that's come out of this, in that manner as well. Not only financially, but also physically. The space has had a lot of really cool growth.
I appreciate you saying that, because, you don't think of that as, I noticed when Joel and I were there, whenever that was, last month, July,
Right.
for the work day, how it seemed like a lot of things were being reborn. I really appreciate how you called that a Sabbath. It's absolutely right. Well, Jeff, and you obviously camp, I know, means a lot to you. I know it means a lot to Joel. The question I have is, what can, and now I'm speaking as Maple's associate pastor here, what can the church do? Because there may be folks watching right now didn't know they could donate, and this may have touched their heart to want to give. What, other than giving, I guess, what else can the church do for this very, very vital ministry? What are some things we could do for y'all?
So I would say, besides financial gifts, I think one of the biggest things that I think even us, we kind of forget ourselves, is there's so many different ways that you can volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
Sending a volunteer group doesn't always have to mean coming to dig something up or do really hard manual labor. We have all sorts of different activities or different spaces in camp that need that can use help from interested people. If there's people who really love landscaping or really love gardening, we have spaces that we could definitely use help for things like that. If there's people who really love to do some good manual labor, then we've got space for that. If there's people who love to paint, we've got things that need to get touched up. There's things inside that basically there's if you have a gift, we can probably use it in some way. And I think that might be the biggest thing, even if it's something small as or maybe not small, but as something as different as you're very good at organizing. We have a lot of spaces that are kind of disorganized right now, and we would love your help organizing something. So there's a variety of different ways, and then obviously also thinking about us and praying for us. If there's a kid in that you know of that may not be connected with your youth group or connected to camp, tell them about camp, tell them how great of a place it is. And if they're not convinced, maybe give them a little push and we can convince them. Yeah.
And the camp store is online, right?
Yes, camp store is online. We don't have everything that we have online, but we do have some cool new shirts on there. We have this new t-shirt that kind of, I don't know, serendipitously enough has a phrase on there that says, it says, light the fire, or light the flame, carry the fire. And that phrase is a phrase that's kind of been used here a lot with summer staff. And it definitely means, it's up to you to move forward. Even when things are bad, it's up to you to carry that fire. And we're going through a rough time right now. And so that phrase really has a really more profound meaning now, a more raw meaning. than it used to for us.
Jeff, give us your website address for
Sure.
people that are interested in retreats. And I know our youth will do this through Joel when the time comes, but just for folks to explore it, because there are forms to fill out and things like
Sure.
that. So what is y'all's website, just so we can have it?
www.camplakestevens with a PH .com. So STEPHENS.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Jeff, I want to be respectful of your time. I sure appreciate you coming and talking with us today. I needed to, and it's been on my heart. Joel, you're going to make me emotional now. So I needed to give camping ministry its due. I was really moved when I was there with Joel a few weeks ago. It's just such a holy place. And I've spent many nights there myself. And as a pastor, I appreciate the resting place.
Sure.
I've utilized that before. So I just wanted to thank
Yeah.
you for, So Joel, you go ahead.
Yeah, man. No, I would like to just, I think you used a good word, a minute ago, Sam, when you said the vital ministry of camp. I know that it's been very formative for me in my faith, in discipleship, and learning what it means to follow Jesus and to live in community and to serve others. And I guess just before we let you go, Jeff, I'd like to just hear your thoughts on ways that you have seen camp as a vital ministry in people's lives. Maybe just some of your own kind of witness to the power, the transformative, power really that camping ministry has.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think this is something else we could go on about. To be honest, I think there's times where we as Camp Lake Stevens might be a little too humble about this. And we don't share those success stories all the time. But I mean, there's countless. When you think about our staff, if we can start with there. Our summer staff, one of the most important parts of my job and the program directors before me is to pour into those staff and to help them discern their own calling, whether it's being a full-time pastor or it's being a youth pastor or a nurse or a engineer or whatever it may be. Our goal for our staff is to be able to still live out their discipleship and live out their faith within whatever their vocation is. I would say for me, my goal in life when I started my first summer here was to be work for the National Park Service, of all things. But people like Joel and others around at that time, we got into all of these really amazing, deep conversations where we were able to challenge each other. And we were able to challenge each other respectfully. It wasn't a like us versus them. It was a let's work through this together. And that was such a foreign concept to me, to be at a place where we could learn together and grow together and disagree together and agree together, and all of those great things. And that just like for me, that really showed me a new path, a new potential path that I could walk on as a human, just not as a camp director or as somebody who works for the NPS, just as a human. It offered me a new path. And I would say from that trickles down into our kids. We want our kids when they leave here to know that there's something different and that they can, our one of our favorite songs. I kind of think of it as like our benediction song. Be bold, and it just goes, be bold, be strong, for the Lord our God is with you. I think about that song, and I hope that they leave with that song stuck in their head, and use it almost as like a benediction to like, okay, I can be something different when I leave this place. This place has taught me how to respect one another and how to learn from each other and how to love each other and support each other, even when we don't agree on every last little bit. That's okay, as long as we are living in that community together. We're going to be stronger for it. We're going to be better humans for it. And so that's that. I would say, just as a basic, thing, that's really what it's all about. Yes, we give kids a fun time, and yes, we make sure that we're not putting them in risky situations, but what it's all about is those shared experiences where we're kingdom building, and we're allowing them to walk a new path. We're giving them the opportunity to walk a new path if they choose.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jeff, for sharing. We will be seeing you again, hopefully sooner rather than later, as the seasons change and getting fired back up for camp again. So again, we want to wish y'all at Camp Lakes, on behalf of myself, Joel, and the whole Maple staff, we wish y'all the very best. We will be praying for you constantly as you enter the next season. So, but anyway, thanks for joining us, Jeff. I appreciate it.
Thank y'all.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Jeff.
All right. And Joel, if you'll stay on for a second.
Yeah, sure.
And Jeff, I think you can, I don't know if you have to.
I think I can exit out.
You just.
See y'all.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks, Jeff. See you, man.
Well, Joel, gosh, that just it does my heart good to know that as the leaves change colors, you think it's the ending of one thing, but it is the beginning of something else. And it's kind of that weird. We've been talking about that with the coping series, about how things are not the end, they are the beginning. And I'm thinking camp is going to be one of those things as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. I mean, I think, Jeff and Rich and all of the staff there are ready to receive us and to help us to grow in this, really strange, different season. But I think, they're there to help us to learn to, do a new thing. And, like you said, to grow in our faith and to keep going, like Jeff was saying, to carry that fire and to carry it through those darker times, and to persist and to know that this is not the end of all things. We will be given the strength to keep going and to be a part of the new thing that God does, in this time. So
I was comforted by the fact that he used Sabbath as the example. That to me, that was like a warm blanket coming over me when he said it like that. I do believe it'll prevail. Well, Joel, let's change gears a little bit. Let's talk about youth ministry, or actually students and families ministry is the technical title. But I know as camp is getting ready to get fired back up, so is some in-person youth ministry. Of course, we got to continue praying that things with COVID kind of remain on the trend that they currently are. The trends are not bad. So what do we got coming up in the fall with youth ministry? We heard from Sarah last week with children's. So share with us a little bit about what we got coming up.
Yeah, man, we're really looking forward to it. We're having youth activities on Sunday and Wednesday afternoons/evenings, starting in September 13th. That's the Sunday we're gonna, look to kick back off. And on Sundays we'll have worship arts, and so we'll have handbells. You can join in a handbell choir. We have a youth choir, and have a new kind of thing that Joey, Pastor Joey is doing with some other kind of artistic expressions that youth can get involved in on Sunday evenings. So we're excited about that on Sundays. And then Wednesday evenings we'll have youth gatherings outside on the Maples softball field. And so we'll have a time for junior high and a time for our senior high, where we'll gather together. We'll have some outdoor activities. We'll have some snack, a little bit of food, and then read scripture and dive into that together and have some discussion. And we're planning on, when we start back with that, having some discussions about the kingdom of God and what the gospel has to teach us and what Jesus has to teach us about the kingdom. So yeah, really excited about those, and we'll have even more kind of details about that this Sunday with our youth parents meeting. So we'll have this Sunday.
Let's talk about the youth parent meeting, because like I said, last week was children's. I understand there are two separate meetings though, because of age groups and space limitations. Talk about that for a second.
Yeah, I mean, so this Sunday we'll have youth parent meetings, and so we'll have both of those at the church in room 118, which is across from the sanctuary, and we'll have at 4:30 our parents of senior high youth, and then at 5:30 our parents of junior high youth meets, and that'll help us, just we'll be able to space out more if we kind of split things up that way. And yeah, we'll just we'll talk more in detail about what the fall activities will look like and get a calendar, all those dates Jeff was mentioning. We'll have those printed out and kind of and ready to go to look at. Just kind of visioning together for the fall, and also hearing from our parents about just ways we can support you right now, ways we can pray for you and ways we can be there for you during this time. So yeah, really looking forward to that this Sunday.
Yeah, and again, there's more information about the meetings that you should have gotten in your email this morning. We will, of course, we're holding these in room 118. Again, we're doing two separate meetings because of it's kind of age groups and space limitations, kind of a two bird with one stone. You will have to have a mask on in the building, and you will be seated socially distanced in that room as well. So, and we encourage y'all, and Joel, I think you would agree. We encourage everybody to ask questions, and I think the biggest encouragement would be that if your youth who is plugged in is friends with a youth that is not plugged in, to bring them, to get them plugged in. I mean, it's all about the invitation, right, Joel?
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, I think that's, I really think that's an important thing. I was talking to, some of the youth the other night on Zoom and just saying, I think it's really important right now for us to be aware of the fact that, a lot of us personally are like going through some hard times, and that's real and important to, work on. And it's also, really important to recognize, again, I was talking to the youth to, recognize like your teachers who are who are really, working really hard right now, and your classmates as well, where, be there for your classmates who, may be having a particularly difficult time this year, and reaching out to, somebody who needs just somebody to talk to, or a kind, affirmative, kind of word. And yeah, and so no, you're right, man. That's absolutely, what we want to be about is that, offering the gifts and the life that we've been given, and sharing that, so I think absolutely, just please, invite folks to come be a part of, our Wednesday night gatherings, or our, youth choir, if you want to get involved in that. Yeah.
And I know, Joel, it's heartbreaking because, I'm feeling it too. I know this year, or at least this semester, you can't go out to the extracurricular activities like you have been in the past because of
right.
the person limitation. And so it's we're operating under those guidelines right now, and that's why just to kind of piggyback off what you said, I think the
Mm-hmm.
invitation is even more important now, just because our visibility out there is it's going to be limited just because of
Right.
beyond our control.
Mm-hmm.
But well, that's so the schedules will be, and actually, and for those of y'all that are youth parents that are watching, yeah, come to the meeting, because we'll have a lot more specifics then. Go through, like Joel said, some camp stuff, and then, dude, it's already almost time to start planning for next summer and mission trips and what.
No,
I mean, how exciting is that? I
that
mean,
is exciting.
I mean,
Yeah, no, you're right, man. We got the youth worship arts trip has been scheduled. The one we were trying to do this summer is going to be for next summer, and then our missions trip also will be rescheduled. And just a little preview: we're looking to go somewhere in the Appalachian region with our same organization, the Praying Pelican Missions. They're really cool. You may want to look them up. Really solid organization, but. So we're looking, yeah, we're already looking to, summer 2021 and planning, getting ready for that. So, yeah.
So cool. That's so cool. Well, Joel, we've been on 35 minutes, so I want to be respectful of your time, because this is only a portion of the episode.
Yeah.
But Joel, is there anything that we can do for your particular ministry area? And when I say we, I'm talking about the folks watching.
Yeah, man. I think, I think one of the really important things about youth ministry is just, like it says in the book of United Methodist Worship, or in the liturgy, whenever we baptize, and particularly an infant, sometimes a younger person, but an infant, especially, or a child, we make the commitment to surround them with a community of love, forgiveness, and to pray for them and to help them walk in the way that leads to life. And so, I think, our youth, they very much need adults, faithful presence in their lives, and so I think, I think, yeah, I mean, just certainly just, prayers for our youth as they're navigating school and being a teenager. But also, yeah, I mean, I think we're working on building our small group leader with the youth. And so that's one way, to get involved if working in that is something you're particularly passionate about, or if you want to, go on the, sign up to go on the trip next summer, for our missions project. You can do that. You could help, just volunteer to, bring snacks for like our Wednesday nights, that sort of thing. Yeah, so there's a lot of good ways. But I think, yeah, I mean, just, I think, just the main thing is just, just kind of being there for, our youth in any way that we can to pray for them and to help them grow in a life of discipleship.
Yeah.
And there are many good ways to do that. So grateful for the ways that, we're already doing that,
Well, the reason why I said camp was such a vital ministry, because, I mean, especially in these formative years of preteen, teenager, and even children, I mean, it can go really far back. What the kids today need more than anything is people in their lives whose faith is real.
Yeah.
And that's
right.
I know what this ministry is targeting. So
yeah, absolutely, man.
Well, Joel, I appreciate it. That's going to be it for me, and then we'll now switch back to our live portion of the program. So, Joel, thanks a lot, brother. Good night.
Yeah, man. Thanks. You too.
All right. And so we really appreciate Joel and Jeff's input on that. And again, I can't emphasize enough just how vital the camping ministry is, and the youth ministry, and it's really good to hear that things are starting to get started again and things like that. So we've got a few other announcements, and then we're going to wrap it up for today. The first one, this is kind of a sad announcement, I guess you could say. We will not, we have made the decision, based on Governor Tate Reeves' orders about sporting events and attendance and banning college football tailgating. We have made the decision to, we will not be having high school football tailgating. We normally do a ministry where we set up the grill at Olive Branch High School games and Lewisburg High School games, and we cook burgers and feed everybody, but that's just not going to be feasible as long as the mask mandate is in place. So I don't want to say never say, I don't want to do the, it's never say never. So at least for the time being, the first home game would be September 4th. That is Labor Day weekend. We just don't feel like we can safely do that during this season of COVID. If things change, I mean, football season's a long season. We will, of course, let you know, but right now we will not be tailgating, at least until further notice. But also wanted to issue a real quick reminder about wearing masks. We've been in person worship now for a few weeks, and I just want to again remind you all about you have to have a mask when you come into the sanctuary to worship. You also have to have the mask and leave it on throughout the duration of the worship service. Remember, it's one of those things where we don't wear the mask for ourselves as much as we do it for others. So the mask wearing, the 6 foot of social distancing, unless it's in members of your own household, you will be getting an email here in the next couple of days that kind of goes over the protocols again, step by step, in a much easier to read bullet point format for you. So far everybody's been doing really well, but we just want to make sure that we are doing our part to help stop or at least slow the spread of COVID-19. And next week, just to kind of give you a preview for next week's episode of Maples Connect, we're going to have an update from our leadership team. Our leadership team met this past Sunday. We've got a few details we're still finalizing about scheduling and some logistical issues. But next week we hope to have a member of the leadership team on Maples Connect to kind of give you an update regarding the return to in-person meetings and small groups, including Sunday school and things like that. So we're looking forward to that. You all should be getting a copy of the Wingspan newsletter that goes out every month. You should be getting that in the mail by this weekend. And so it'll have a little bit more information about all that coming up. Right now we're shooting for a start date of the week after Labor Day to get things rolling again. If the trends that we're seeing right now continue to go in the right direction, I'm eternally optimistic. So that's what we've got coming up. So really just stay tuned. Next week, be sure to tune in to Maples Connect next Wednesday night at 6:30, same time, same channel. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us, especially Joel and Jeff, and all of you for watching. We invite you to tune in next week. And remember, we at Maples, we love you, God loves you, and we wish you all the best. And don't forget to tune in tomorrow night at 6 o'clock for Stephen's Daily Devotional, Friday night at 6 for his Daily Devotional, and Saturday morning at sunrise for my Sunrise Devotional that we will be bringing to you. Until next time, this is Pastor Sam saying good night, everybody. Good evening.